The Cultural Council's mission is to nurture, promote, and support a healthy, diverse, and inclusive cultural sector so that the arts and culture are a part of everyday life for everyone. We invite listeners to discover Florida's cultural capital online at palmbeachesculture.com. To the ArtiGras Podcast. I am your host, Sarah LaPierre. We're here to get into all things art and culture of Palm Beach County, as usual. And I've got a wonderful guest with me today, Jessica Ransom. She is the Director of Artist Services with the Cultural Council for Palm Beach County. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. We have known each other in the scene for many years now, and I'm excited to dive into this conversation with you, kind of get some behind the scenes looks at what a curator does, the many things, the many hats that you wear, because I think it's a lot. But let's kind of start with the background a little bit first, if we can. Okay. You didn't start off in the arts. No. You came from successful careers in both government and education. When did that switch happen, and what was kind of the point that made you go, okay, arts now?
Well, I always loved the arts, and I was teaching Chinese actually in a private high school in Connecticut, and I moved to New York City and was trying to find a position there. But at that time, a lot of the programs were just starting, and they didn't really want someone who looked like me starting their program. So I didn't get any of the positions I applied to, and I ended up starting to take photography classes at the International Center of Photography for fun because I love photography. I always have. And I was in New York City, so why not? And then I realized I didn't want to become a professional photographer. I wasn't going to do weddings or anything like that. And I thought, well, what else can I do in the arts? Because there's a lot of other opportunities. So I applied for master's programs in art history at Christie's and Sotheby's, where we're right downtown. And I got into both of them, but I choose to go to Christie's, which was a really great program. It's very market oriented. So I knew I could find something that would be intriguing to me in the art market. And I did. It ended up being a lot of fun. I was in the city. I got to go to foundries in Brooklyn and go behind the scenes in the Metropolitan Museum of Art and see their conservation program, things like that. It was amazing.
So much amazing early experience there alone. What eventually brought you to Palm Beach County in South Florida?
I was working for an art appraisal and advisory firm in New York, and they had clients, I guess, in all over the country. Sure. And I told them at the time, my husband's job had an office down in West Palm Beach. And I said, we go down there frequently. You want me to bring some cards? And they said, better than that, why don't you open an office? So I worked part-time for about a year, traveling back and forth between Palm Beach and New York, and that did not work at all. Not good. So we ended up moving down here, and I opened the office for them down here.
Wow. Wow. That's so interesting. Okay. So you mentioned going back to earn your master's degree, right? What was that pivot like later in life? Was it
so hard? I hadn't been in school. I'd been teaching school, but I hadn't been in school for a really long time. I was in my 40s. I was almost old enough to be the parent of a lot of my the other students in my class. And it was really, really hard, but so exciting and so challenging and really fun. It was learning a new thing. I always want to learn a new thing. And my daughter at the time was in middle school. She was my study buddy. I would make flashcards and she would challenge me on my, art history paintings and stuff. And then I would take my son a lot of the time on museum or studio visits. So both my kids know so much about art.
I was going to say, they definitely got the education the same way as you did. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it was foisted upon them.
That was really great. Do you feel like that changed the way that you listen to your instincts, making that switch at that time in life, going back to school, furthering the education? Do you think that was something where your gut was saying, this is where I want to be, or,
Yeah, I think I've always been the type of person who wants to learn something new and challenge myself. And I think it was the right thing for me to do it at that time. It was hard, but it woke me up to a whole new most people don't know that I worked for the government or taught or any of that. They just know me as an art person. Yeah. They have no idea. And so it's just like another phase of life that I've just embraced, and I've really loved it. I've been lucky.
Yeah. And I think the art world has certainly embraced you too. So it's, it's been a really cool collaboration, and the work that you do here is wonderful. Palm Beach County is lucky to have you. So in that instance, let's talk about your role with the Cultural Council. Can you give me a description of what Director of Artist Services means?
Mm-hmm. It's a little bit of everything. Yeah. We're not for profit, so you do a lot of different things. I run the galleries. We have 3 different galleries. Our main gallery is always themed exhibitions, and then North Gallery is a small space where we try to do community related work, working with other cultural organizations or talking about things in the community. And then we have a solo gallery where artists can apply. It's an open application. And we fill in 6 solo shows each year. Each one gets a 6-week show. And then I run all kinds of other programs like Open Studios. And we just started last year this Distinguished Women Artist Prize. We have an Emerging Artist Program. We have the Artist Innovation Fellowship is run by our grant department, but I'm involved with that as well. I have my hands in a lot of different pots.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're probably involved in a little bit of the mapping out of what comes next too, right?
Totally. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
So that is a lot of hats to wear. Yes. From your vantage point, what do you think most is often misunderstood about the Palm Beach County art market?
Well, the art market in general is very opaque. It's pretty much unregulated. It's really hard to break into. It's true everywhere. And I think that for Palm Beach County artists, the struggle is often getting past being living in a smaller, not a city. You're not living in New York, Chicago, LA. So you have all these people coming to Palm Beach County who buy art wherever they come from, but often they come here and they don't want to buy art because it's not New York or some big city. And so I think that's a bit of a struggle, and it's very difficult to get your work into exhibitions and other locations. So there's always this kind of glass ceiling. And it's true not just here, it's true in small markets throughout the country, throughout the world. So it's always a challenge, and it's something I try to explain to people and talk to them and help work through where they are in the art market and try to meet them where they are and try to help them move to the next level for their careers.
Sure. Yeah. I see a lot of that work being done very directly in the Cultural Council and what you guys do. You mentioned the exhibit space. For anyone who doesn't know, can you tell us a little bit about that building there?
So 601 Lake Avenue, it's a beautiful white Art Deco building that has had many incarnations, but a long time ago was a movie theater. And I had an artist when I first came, an older gentleman who had grown up in Lake Worth, and he used to go to the movie theater, and he told me it was 5 cents to get to buy a ticket and go see a movie. And I was like, oh my God, I can't even imagine back in the day that a movie was 5 cents. But it's a beautiful building. And we have, it's 2 levels. The upper level is where our offices are.
Mm-hmm.
So the main level is where all the galleries are. We also have a store, which that's another thing I started running this year, is the store, because that's also all Palm Beach County based artists. We have an information center where you can get all kinds of information about art and culture in Palm Beach County.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal space. And well, we can talk about this right now too. You just had an exhibit open this past weekend, right? So that was Being Well-Being.
Correct.
Did I get that right? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I haven't had the chance to view it yet, but it sounds like a really special show.
It is.
What was the initial spark that led to this exhibit?
Well, we talk about shows for years. I have a sort of a general 5-year plan for exhibitions that are kind of big picture ideas. And we've been talking about doing something that's health and well-being related, because those are buzzwords and, the relationship to the arts. There's a lot of talk about that, but it's all kind of amorphous.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, trying to figure out, what does an art show about mental health or health, and I had to really work on conceptualizing that for a while. So we've been talking about it for a couple of years, but finally we put it on the calendar and we're going to do a health and well-being show. So what I started doing was talking to artists and just looking at what's out there in our community. We have a really amazing directory. We have, I think, 760 some artists in our directory right now.
And those are all Palm Beach County artists.
All Palm Beach County. Yeah. It's not just visual artists. We have musicians, dancers, choreographers, poets, all kinds of artists. But I spend a lot of time in our directory looking at what people are doing. I also just go do studio visits and talk to artists at all different events that we have to understand what's happening in the community, because I can only create a show if it's happening in our community. So I had to conceptualize this, and I finally came up with the idea of, okay, there's kind of 2 sides of the coin. Artists often work through their mental or physical health issues with their art. They may not even know that they're doing that. It may surface itself after the art is made and they realize, oh, this was related to whatever was going on in my body at the time. And so there was that side of the coin, how artists use their artwork to, kind of live their lives. The other side of the coin is well-being, how art is really actually beneficial to us. They're starting to realize it can lower blood pressure, just kind of give people a general sense of well-being. So I started looking at things like mandalas, and I read a really fascinating article about a stained glass artist who was working with a scientific community and made this beautiful stained glass dome that people could enter. And it was like a very soothing, calming place. Because if you think about going into churches with stained glass, it's just beautiful and awe-inspiring and joyful. Yeah. And so I included stained glass, and I included work that is about nature, because nature is also beneficial to our well-being. So all of these pieces came together, and I also did a call to poets. So we have poetry interspersed for quiet moments throughout the show.
Really interesting. So on opening, were any of the poets a part of the night?
The poets were there, as were the visual artists. We didn't do any poetry readings that night, but they were all there and available to talk about their work and what was behind it. And same thing with the artists, because a lot of them very kindly agreed to talk about whatever struggles they were dealing with that brought this art forth. Like I'll give you an example. There's one woman who was diagnosed with a very aggressive cancer. And as part of her practice, she's to try to get herself healthy again. She started meditating, and she realized she's a synesthete, which is a person who sees or hears thing. Yes, they all kind of blend together. So your senses blend. And so she sees color, and her work, the emotions and the feelings that come out of, meditation and other things come to her, and then she puts them into her pottery, and it's beautiful.
Ooh, it's a ceramic
so gorgeous.
Too. That's fascinating. I love that. That medium is still one of my favorites that I've gotten to, to play with on the side. But it does, it's funny to me too, that the aspect of arts as healing is not something new, right? Mm-hmm. But then as a working artist, there are so many times where I will be honest and say, you're working on something going, God, like this is, there's a major, whatever it is, frustration, blocks, challenges that come along with the making of something, but it's still both healing and, the opposite of relaxing to make at the same time. But that's why being an artist is very interesting.
I can imagine your paintings as sculptural. That makes total sense to me that ceramics would be appealing to you.
For sure.
Because that sort of heavy textural. Yeah.
Yeah,
totally.
very much so.
I see that. Yes.
Okay. So you touched on this a little bit already, but I want to see if we can get a little bit more details because I'm very curious about this process. You said 5 years sometimes out. Is that the average? Is that pretty much how long maybe an idea goes from, conception to opening night for a show?
Not usually. I usually don't have that much time, but there are ideas that I have in my head that can take that long to come to fruition just because I need to find that many artists to be able to have a show. But usually it's at least a year. We plan a full year in advance for our whole schedule. And I'm spending, either doing calls, reviewing our directory, that type of thing, to try to come up with enough artwork, especially for the main gallery. That's always a real challenge because, a theme is one thing, but finding people who are actually focused on a particular type of artwork is another.
Sure.
So, but they often just come together bit by bit over time, figuring out how all of the pieces come together. The Being Well show was truly magic. I mean, I wasn't really sure how it was going to come together. So you do that over time, plan the calls, and then I curate well in advance because I know the space. So I'm thinking based on when I find an artist, okay, I know the size of this work. I know where I think it will be visually, because the way I see my artwork, I guess, is my ability to walk through a space and see how it's going to fit in that space and see how the visitor is going to travel through that space and appreciate the work. And I like to think about controlling that pathway.
Sure.
Leading them through that pathway.
Yeah, because you're telling a story. There's a narrative that's being built as you, experience the art in that particular space. It's a space that I have seen transformed in so many different ways with the different exhibits. And it really, even though, you're always working with the same, essentially, walls. I know there's sometimes you build out and add in extra spaces there. But it's really fascinating to see how you do direct people to move in the space. And of course, opening night is different than maybe just visiting on the weekday because it's packed opening nights, which is wonderful. But I do, for that reason, sometimes like to, if I can, come back and experience it on a crowded, busy night where I can just do that walkthrough and take a little bit more time and, have a moment to soak things in a little bit more. So where are you going to find culture? When you talk about, obviously you're using the directory, you're doing things like studio visits, where else is that part of the job? Is that just something you enjoy doing? Are, other exhibit visits or studio visits, how much is that a part of what you do?
It's constant. My life outside of work is also very art driven.
Sure.
So just a couple weekends ago, my husband and I drove over to Sarasota across nothing. And we were going because we went to the Ringling Museum where there was a local artist who was in an exhibition over there, and I knew about it and I really wanted to see it before it closed. So I went there specifically to see that exhibit, but then also what else is going on over there? What other exhibits they have. And I had never been to that museum. So we wherever we go to museums, and we are also collectors. So I also collect stuff that I like.
Sure.
And so I'm always looking for different things. I go to galleries all the time, openings, locally, but also anywhere I travel, like when I go back to New York, I always try to go to some exhibit that's happening up there. So,
Are there any unexpected or surprising places that you've, made? I don't know, art discoveries is not maybe the right term, but somewhere that you've visited, whether it's recently or initially when you came to Palm Beach County, that you were like, oh, there's a really interesting spot happening here.
Oh God, there's so many. But,
well, that's good to hear. Right?
Yeah, there's so many things. I think people forget that there's all different levels of artwork, right? You have students all the way up to very professional artists. So I've been to things like there is a foundry. It's pretty much closed now, but at one point there was a local West Palm Beach foundry. I went to visit the artists there. I go to galleries all the time, but what I think people forget is there's several MFA programs going on in our county. FAU has an amazing MFA program. The students and the teachers there are incredible. And, they have MFA shows. People don't make the effort. In New York, that would happen all the time. There's collectors who will purposely specifically go to MFA openings because they're finding the art, or they perceive themselves to be finding the artist at the cusp of their career, something like that. But we have that same thing here. You can absolutely do that here. And there are teachers not just in MFA programs, but in local high schools that are amazing. So all you have to do is engage a little bit with the art community and go to a gallery opening. There's amazing galleries in West Palm Beach. Christian Hillegerda Gallery is right next to Gavlak Gallery, and now Eric Firestone Gallery. Those are wonderful contemporary galleries where you can find artists. Now, they're not local artists. So, you're finding, again, people who've brought artists from other places. I would love it if there was some local gallery that was really promoting local artists other than us. But other than Mountain Space in Lake Worth, I don't really know of many others that are doing that and doing it well. So there are amazing little nooks and crannies. Ben Zeiton, Art and Culture, they're doing amazing glass blowing there, and they're bringing in people from Italy. Yeah,
and doing these incredible workshop series with like masters of their art. That's a very exciting space for sure. There's, I know you're right. There's so many of these areas that if you just spend a little time getting into, it's there. But I'm glad you mentioned the MFA programs, because there are some artists that I've seen and then I find out that's the program they did. I'm like, of course you did, because you're excellent. And it really is an amazing program. So I'm glad you brought that one up. We talked about you oversee an impressive number of exhibitions every year. It's featuring, dozens of artists, even potentially, hundreds when you do shows like the one that just happened, the short list. So when you're reviewing all of this work, and, spending immense amount of time in that directory or doing studio visits, like you said, what's giving you pause and making you think there's something that I need to pay attention to or that needs to be shared here?
Well, I like the art critic Jerry Saltz. And he talks about looking at work, spending more time with work that you don't like. And so that always gives me pause. If I think, I don't like this, why don't I like it? And then I ask myself more questions, and I think, well, do I feel like it's unfinished in some way that it could go further? I don't know. It could be any number of different things. So that's one thing that gives me pause. But also, oftentimes I'll come across some things. So the short list was massive. We had 165 works of art in it. We had 146 artists. I saw so much artwork because that was an open call. And so there were submissions for that. And I saw tons and tons and tons of artwork.
And just for a frame of reference for the listeners, this was a show dedicated to small scale works. So you were, utilizing a lot of pieces to also fill this space with work, right? So continue, please.
Yeah. So our goal was to have a lot of small works. It was meant to be an accessible, very collectible show. And it was great. It really exposed people to the diversity of art in Palm Beach County. And I tried to have a wide range, everything from abstraction, realism in terms of landscapes, or botanical images or anything like that. And it was great because for me, I was looking for what I perceived to be very high quality, well created work. Like it wasn't, slapdash or anything. It was well done. And also, something that was accessibly priced. And so I was picking stuff that I maybe normally wouldn't have chosen because I had no real theme. Sure. I could choose kind of whatever I liked that I thought looked good. But it was an enormous range. And what sold and what didn't was super interesting. And who chose what was super interesting. And I thought, oh, this was a real learning experience for me as a curator. Like what appeals to people.
A market experiment that you just got to witness really in a quick turnaround.
Yes. So yeah, that was a really great experiment. We learned a lot. And, if we do it again, we can really build off of that.
Yeah, very, very cool. And I love that, like you said, you're always looking to learn something. This is a role that you get to do that in constantly with exhibits that are ever changing and, developing things like this just keep giving you more feedback to work with.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Was there this is probably a terrible question to ask any curator, but if there's a memory or a moment from an exhibition that you were a part of, that you curated, that really, lit up something for you, or that you really, you learned something that excited you in a new direction or something like that, just a standout, memorable moment from some exhibition?
I think each one gives me something different. Yeah. It challenges me. I did one show on my own, which was called Whimsy and Wonder. And that was one of the ones where I think I really, really worked to make it a little bit of a Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory kind of experience. When you walked in, it was a little overwhelming.
There was that vibe. I enjoyed it.
But I challenged myself in that space because it's a large space with high ceilings, but I wanted it to be slightly claustrophobic in terms of like, oh my gosh, there's so much quirky stuff here.
Yeah.
And really packed in a lot of artists and also showed just how wonderful, joyous art can be.
Completely.
So I loved that for myself. That was a great experience. But then I've also worked with a lot of really great curators with our biennial and a few other themed shows. And one of the ones that was wonderful for me was called She, Her, Hers. And it was with a feminist art curator named Veronique Chagnon-Burke. And she lives in New York and in France. And she wrote an essay about the women artists in the show. And we really worked together to curate the show because she wasn't living here. So I was sending her ideas of people that she might want to consider, like highlighting people in the directory. And we talked through themes and how, she wasn't familiar with the space. So how we could create the space with this group of artists. And so that was a really lovely collaboration. That was a really wonderful experience for me as well.
I'd love to hear both of those. Those pieces of it, that, the collaboration and the branching out on, your own in that way. And the Wonder and Whimsy show, immediately when you said that, Whimsy and Wonder,
whichever way.
Which one works? I'm going to forget her last name, but Caitlin
Frown. Yes.
Love her work. And I just, that piece is so vivid in my mind. Her diorama.
Yeah.
Right.
Like a little house.
Fantastic.
Yes.
I absolutely, any opportunity to see what she creates is phenomenal. But that one was just really, you walked over, you're just like, what is going on here? It was such an exciting moment to step into this little world that she created. And at the same time, it felt so Florida. And so, there were so many aspects of it. So that was a really something that I will remember from that show for sure. Which is that feedback that you get often in different ways of people saying, that piece or that way, or the way that, something from that show, is that something that you get to hear often?
Yes. People, that's the thing. Art
whether you want to or not.
Yeah. There's always good and bad, but art moves people.
Yeah.
Right. They remember certain things. I mean, I don't know how long ago that show was, but you remember that specific piece from that specific show. And that's wonderful that you're going to hold on to that. And that artist, you'll probably follow her and her work and learn more about it. That's what's exciting about art. And I think people get scared of art sometimes. Like art galleries can be scary because they're these white boxes and people don't really know exactly what to do when they walk in. And when I was in art school for art history, a lot of my friends would say, oh, you'll have to take me to the galleries and explain it to me. And I'll say, it's art. You go look at it and you think about it, and you don't have to be explained. It's just, how do you respond to it? And if people allow themselves to just enjoy art, you can like it or not like it. It doesn't matter. Just like I said, there's stuff I don't like, of course, but just be in it, absorb it.
Yeah. Be curious about it. I think that's where like a person like Jerry Saltz is so appealing, because he is somebody who doesn't come from a fine arts background, right? And
he was an artist.
Says his like career or fine arts critic background, I guess.
Right. So he was an artist, and then I think he realized I can't be an artist, so he became a critic.
A critic instead. But his, way of encouraging anybody and everybody to be a part of the arts and engage with it. And like you said, not be afraid of not liking something or not understanding it. Just go observe and ask questions about it. I think the Cultural Council, that space, is a great job of making it inviting and friendly and trying to be, you can come here whether or not you are feel like you belong in the arts somehow, because like you said, it can be really intimidating to walk. I mean, even an art show, a fine art festival, I find that people, which is part of the reason that I like to participate in events that way, because I get to talk to people and try and bridge that gap a little bit more and, be able to have conversations that say, like, even if you don't know whatever, what you like, what's appealing to you, whether it's the color blue or it is something with a deeper message, there's but opening up a conversation is the part that is missing a lot. That lets people say, it's okay, come on in.
But it is a communal space where people can meet and people can talk. There have been times where I've been in galleries in many different museums, anywhere, and you can have the most interesting conversations with people if you're just open to it. Yeah. My husband always harasses me because I am the person that somebody will talk to on an elevator or in a museum or whatever, wherever I am. Yeah. They're going to ask me for directions and they're going to ask me what I thought about that restaurant or whatever. And he's like, why? I have no idea. But I end up talking to people wherever I go.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's becoming more of a favorite thing that I enjoy. There's some spaces that have a maybe overhyped sense of sacredness.
Oh, true. Yeah.
And that is part of what could scare people a little bit, right? Like I have to be quiet and calm and dignified and dress a certain way or whatever to be, be present in this space and make like I belong here. But I think that those spaces are much more open than people realize. And I sometimes like to, not behave in a way that's, unwelcome, but behave in a way, be a little bit louder, ask a little bit more questions, talk about something, even just show up in a way that breaks that ice a little bit. And it's fun anyway. Okay. So let's talk about the community of Palm Beach County next. I have so many more questions. We'll get there. Before we break into that, let's hear a quick word from our sponsor, the wonderful Cultural Council for Palm Beach County. So stay tuned for a message from them, and we will be right back with more questions.
Those dinner reservations and tea times will have to wait, because there's an art-filled paradise beyond these beaches. A mecca of masterpieces, spectacular sights by day and night. A cultural capital that's calling your name. See See so much more than you came for in the Palm Beaches.
Okay, so Palm Beach County, incredibly diverse, a wider range of creative population, all genres and areas are represented here.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think makes this area uniquely fertile grounds for artists to be working artists across disciplines here?
Well, I think initially for visual artists looking for studios, it was a relatively, compared to say Miami, less expensive place. It's not that case anymore. And that's always a struggle now, is finding that kind of space. But I do think there's a lot of support for the arts, because we do have people coming from all over, and they want to have the same sort of art and culture that they have where they came from.
Sure.
So, you think for years and years and years, we've had the Kravis Center, that's been there for a long time, and people always had that to go to, and different parts of the county. I live in the central part of the county, but there's Maltz Jupiter Theater up north, and Boca Raton has a great deal of art and cultural spaces, the Boca Museum, that sort of thing. And so we have that offering. Art and culture, the Cultural Council talks about, there's so much more than beaches. And it really is true. We have this beautiful, beautiful climate that people can be out in, but they can also, take in a play or a concert. And some of those things are outdoors as well, which is lovely. So we have this support in the community, a lot of interest in art and culture. And then initially, I think we had a really fertile ground in terms of relatively inexpensive places for people to live. Now I think that is more of a struggle, but now we have a really wonderful group of artists here, which does continue to grow, because I think if you have Miami with Miami Basel, there's a lot of, that has almost become like New York. The competition there is so intense. And so people come here and they feel like, oh, there's more opportunity for me here. So I do think I hear from artists that they live in, Miami or Fort Lauderdale or something, and they think, oh, I really want to come to Palm Beach because they feel like there's more opportunity.
Interesting.
I don't know if that's still as much the case as when I first came here. I moved here in 2014, so I've seen it grow immensely.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. It definitely has. It's been an exciting time. Even, in the interruption, if that's even the appropriate word, of COVID and all those things that shifted then in the arts world. But yeah, it's definitely been a big period of growth over a decade here. For years in arts advocacy, what are some of the recent wins, things that you would be interested in, like, hey, we need to celebrate this a little bit more because this is something that we really pushed forward on. Is there anything that stands out when you think of, wins that you're personally proud of, or you're proud of the organization for?
Well, we give incredible amounts of grants to artists and to cultural organizations. That's what the council's mission is. So we're always doing something new and wonderful, I think. But personally, since when I first came, our solo gallery was a pay for play model. And I did not like that at all. I was like, no, we got to change that. So we found grants right away. So now artists apply, it's an open call, and they get a stipend for the solo gallery. So that's totally changed. We started open studios since I've been here. Artists wanted to find new ways to show their artwork, to sell their artwork. So we founded open studios. Now we've been doing that for several years. Last year, we created the Distinguished Women Artists Prize, which is a brand new thing, which is a $10,000 grant, unrestricted, to a woman artist who's at the cusp of her career. That's amazing. Yeah. We started the Emerging Artist Prize, something I wanted to do right from when I started. So we have that grant as well. The Artist Innovation Fellowship, which is one of Dave Lawrence's ideas, which is incredible. Artists who are, established in their careers and they need to find a way to move themselves to the next level. So you've got somebody, and those are not strictly visual artists. The Emerging and Artist Innovation Fellowship are all media. So dancers, choreographers, poets, visual artists, anyone can apply. So we're really theater. We're trying to support all artists in Palm Beach County.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great list right there in itself. I wanted to ask a little bit more about the Distinguished Women's, because that's new. As you said, you awarded it for the first time last year. How does it feel to be able to, I guess, honor and support an artist at that stage in their career?
It's fantastic. I wish we have one wonderful, wonderful philanthropist who's supporting this right now. And I would love it if we had 10 people who said, oh yeah, this is a great idea. We need to give it to 10 artists because, and just keep growing it. It would be amazing, because so many artists have to, as you know, to be a full-time artist usually means you also have to do some other job. You have to, I don't know, any number of other things. And that's wonderful too. Like, we have amazing teachers who are also artists, and that would be a real loss to the county if we lost them.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful that there are those people, but for somebody who just wants to work on their art and progress in their career, this is an amazing opportunity to just say, okay, here's this money, you take it, you go with whatever your idea is and progress on your path. But we have to recognize, so the way I created it is I worked with local arts professionals to come up with a list of local women artists who are at a certain point in their careers. They've established themselves. They're maybe starting a new, I don't know, could be working with a new medium or something like that. They're at just a cusp in their careers. Could be anything. And find those people who are really, really great established artists and have an opportunity to go even further. So they know these people because they're in the community. Yeah. So they came up with this whole list, and we create a body of work about, each one of these artists. Then I sent that to a national panel, people from all over the country. Also, I had a few people from overseas. I had somebody from London. I had somebody from France, some people, somebody in New Orleans, somebody on the West Coast, all over. And we came together on a Zoom call. They had already scored each one of the artists. And then we had probably a 2-hour conversation about the different artists. And ultimately, we could only choose one.
Yeah.
So imagine if I had 10, I'd be so excited. But, this is a group of arts professionals who look at artists all the time, gallerists, museum directors, all kinds of different people. And, also for that artist who got chosen, what an honor, right?
Truly.
To be looked at by all, and also the ones who didn't get chosen but got discussed.
Yeah.
Who knows what the ripples are for those people?
Very much so. And I mean, it like you said, it's, would you call it a nomination? I guess you can only be nominated. It's not something that you can apply. So somebody from the community has to, say that this person is doing something, maybe not even just in the arts, but I think a part of it is the way that they're involved in the community as well. And where kind of they're woven in, in their, like you said, at a cusp of their journey. That's a phenomenal. That's very exciting that's new. And I hope it continues and grows for a long time, because it is such a special thing. And I think you told me this, the artist did not know, she wasn't prepared. No. Like, you just announced it, right?
Yeah. It'll never happen again, because now people know that it exists.
That it's a thing.
But I was so excited to surprise her. So, I mean, they won't know per se. They'll know they're being considered. Yeah. Because they will be invited to attend the event where the announcement will be made, So, there will be that. There'll be that level of excitement. Yeah.
But, so special. And excited that that's a way that, again, you give that much more excitement back to the community, because they get to be a part of that announcement as well. It's not just something that you get an email for, which, there's excitement there too. Trust me. Course, we have to open so many emails that one of them being really exciting and positive is great. Yeah. But that you really involve the community of artists and collectors and whoever else is a part of that night in the excitement. And then that's that many more people potentially following this artist's trajectory and their next steps, right? There's new interest around them because you've said, hey, this is someone that we want to support and is worthy of your attention. Not that they weren't before, but you're just calling it out if people don't
highlighting them.
See that featured yet. Okay.
But I do think the artist community, our artist community is very supportive of each other. I think because it is somewhat smaller than some of the other, bigger cities, the artists really do raise each other up, I think. And that is really wonderful to see.
Yeah, I would say that's something that I, I've personally experienced and feel and try to very much so contribute to as well. That being in a supportive community, that there's enough for everyone, that, it's always going to be collaboration over competition to me, because that's just one, much more interesting and allows for so much more possibility. And two, the only person I ever want to compete with is like the person I was yesterday.
Yes.
And that's it. Anything else is just an opportunity for collaboration, for sure, as I see it anyway. All right. Well, I wanted to ask a little bit about, where you think you would encourage artists to jump in if they're kind of still hanging back and looking for places, if they're, feeling isolated, whether they've been here for years or they're just, arriving to this community. Where's kind of a starting place that you would nudge them towards, like, here is a great way to get into the community here?
So we do this artist critique group called Thoughtful Review. It's once a month, and it's usually at the Cultural Council on a Thursday night. But this year we've integrated a couple other locations as well, because we know that it's difficult if you live in the farthest reaches of the county to get to Lake Worth on a Thursday night at 5:30. It's traffic, all that. I understand that. So this year we did one in Delray, and we did one up in Jupiter. But generally we have it at the Cultural Council. It's 2 hours. We present artists sign up to show their work. And then we have a volunteer reviewer. It's often a teacher in the community or a gallery owner or a museum person, something. We have a variety of different people, and that person will lead the discussion about the work. And the artist will talk about, is it a new series of work that they're working on, or are they questioning something specific about they want to grow their work or make it smaller or whatever they're trying to do. They're thinking about public art, something. And then the reviewer will comment, but then the group assembled, which is usually somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 or 30 people, will also weigh in and give ideas. And sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. Sometimes it's some far left field idea that, that person, you have to be able to let that kind of stuff roll off and just accept what's interesting to you and release what's not. But a lot of people really gain something from those experiences, putting themselves out there. And I've seen that's a really great way for people to meet other artists in the community, to connect with people who live in the area that you live in. Sometimes little small groups have broken off and started their own little community. So I think that's a really, really good starting point for somebody who's new or who wants to get reengaged.
Yeah. No, I love that suggestion. Is it something that, let's say, even if you're not ready to necessarily have your work be a part of that you can attend?
Yes. So you just attend, you can attend anytime and be part of the group that's, commenting or not as you wish, but also there'll be a break where you can look around the galleries, you can talk to other people, a little bit of networking is always valuable. So that's a really good starting point. And then we always recommend people that they should be in the directory, because then we at least know who you are.
Sure.
Besides curating shows from the directory, we get random questions from the community all the time. Somebody wants to commission a portrait or something like that. So I go to the directory and I type in portrait and I come up with, 3 or 4 different portrait artists. I send them to that person and I say, these are people that you might want to reach out to.
Yeah, truly. It's a suggestion that I make to artists as well all the time. I mean, it's free to have a profile on there. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because it is something that's going to remind me to update it. That it shouldn't just be a stagnant thing, that as you produce new work, as you enter into maybe new genres or new phases, you should absolutely keep that updated, because it is utilized. And I have had work, I mean, through that, I've had work placed in a hotel, things that would never have come to me directly. They were looking for local artists, Florida artists, whatever they were, searching for. And the Cultural Council directory is seen as a resource for that. So it's a good reminder for all of us to be on there, and not just for visual artists. Like you said earlier,
right?
Every genre is represented on there. You can go find musicians, writers, speakers, dancers, poets, et cetera, et cetera. Everything is on there. So it really is. Even if you're looking for like, hey, I'm a musician, I want to find some other musician buddies, like who are doing maybe, jazz specifically. You can type in jazz and, singers, and you'll find those people on there if they're listed. So it is a great resource for artists for sure. I wanted to ask you about your personal inspirations or perspectives, I guess. What's a mindset that you hold, or that you come back to when you're doing this work in advocacy? Sometimes it takes a lot of patience and a lot of slow development to see progress. What's something that you hold on to that, is a part of that mission for you that keeps that moving forward?
Well, I want to be as inclusive as possible always. And so what I try to explain to people is that there's artists of all kinds at all different levels of their careers. And I'm always trying to meet the artist where they are. So when somebody comes to me and says, they want to, usually the thing they want is to be in a gallery. And I start asking questions about, well, where are they selling their work now? How are they selling their work now? Are they showing on social media, or are they in a gallery, or have they been in a gallery? I just start, I don't try to kind of directly say, oh, we'll call this place, because they're not, by and large, a gallery is just going to ignore you. They want to find you.
Right.
They don't want you to find them. And so everybody's at a different place in their careers. And so I try to explain to people that there's all these different aspects of the market. I often will talk to people about the opportunity to do public art, because I've been on the Art in Public Places in West Palm Beach for like 8 years or something like that. And I'm the head of that committee right now. And there's so many opportunities like that are outside the box of what you think you might be appropriate for. But there's ways for local artists to engage in public art programs. And then if you have that opportunity, you realize, oh, I can do this. And then you maybe apply for something bigger. It's another way to make money, different from what you might have been doing previously. So it's about meeting people where they are, listening, really, really listening. What is it that they need to try to push them to the next level? And also explaining that it's a trajectory. If you come and you attend Thoughtful Review and you feel comfortable being around some other artists, then maybe you'll present your artwork. Then you'll get some tips on maybe where you should be heading in the direction of what you're doing. And then maybe you're going to apply for a group show and get accepted into that group show. Then you start feeling comfortable with being in exhibitions. And then maybe you create enough of a body of work to be in a solo show. So all of these things are building processes, but everybody is at different stages in their careers.
Definitely. There's another program. What is it called? It's different resources, education tools for artists that you host, where, somebody will come in and teach you how to professionally package and ship your work. Yes. And somebody will come in and teach you how to, manage a well-rounded social media account, or all of these different things that are important tools for a professional working artist to know. What is that?
Institute for Cultural Advancement.
Institute for Cultural Advancement.
It's our professional development series.
Yeah.
And we do it for both artists and cultural organizations.
That's
so
right.
It's a wide range of topics. But throughout the year, we, have probably 3 or 4 for artists. And then some of the cultural organization ones might be appropriate as well. You just check on our website and see what's available.
Yeah.
They're all free.
Another wonderful, free resource, and a great, also a little bit part networking, part learning opportunity, and, also just being in a pretty space surrounded by art. Okay, a quick question. What do you personally prefer, an opening night or a studio visit?
They are so different.
Yeah.
You have to be an extrovert for both, I think, but a studio visit is way more one-on-one and personal. And I think an opening night is almost like a wedding. You have to talk to a million people. It's overwhelming. I guess studio visits probably because I'm learning so much in a studio visit, talking to an artist, understanding their process, which I really care about. I love to learn about process, but also just their thinking behind why they're making what they're making, that sort of thing.
Yeah, a little bit more time that you have to dive in there. Do you have a art practice of your own these days?
Not really. I still do some photography, but not the way I used to when I was actually studying photography. And you know, like we all just have devolved to using our phones all the time. So I don't carry a camera around most of the time.
True. There's a new art festival upcoming, and they have some workshops built into it, which I think is great. And one of them is iPhoneography.
Oh, fun.
Right. Which I think is great. It's at the Jupiter Lighthouse. It's a part of their River to Reef Festival. And they have different artists hosting different workshops throughout the 2 days. And yeah, I think, you know, especially at a place like that where people are naturally, you know, a lot of them are coming there for that aspect, whether it's to take selfies or to go further and, you know, really dive into photography. But I think it's a great little workshop that's going to be fun for everybody. All right. So another question that I ask everybody is, if you could, I'm going to rephrase it this time though. If you could suggest a maybe lesser known experience in the arts and culture sector here in Palm Beach County that you would suggest people get into, you know, whether maybe it's somebody, you have family coming in town and they want to see and experience something in the arts, or a lifelong resident who just hasn't gotten there yet. What's maybe a lesser known art side experience that you think people should be more aware of and get into?
Well, we mentioned Ben Zeiton earlier. I think that place is really unique and incredible. I mean, you can see people blowing glass. They have workshops. You can take a class if you want to. Right. That is a really unique experience, I think. And that's something that you can find every day.
Yeah. I mean, even the building history, right? That it was a train station. And
it's like the tracks are right behind it.
There's so many interesting elements to it. And actually, JB, the founder, and then their hot shop manager, Grace, were on this podcast. And I loved talking with both of them. They're incredibly energetic, interesting artists, both in very different stages of their careers, of course. But they have a shop as well. You mentioned earlier that they have, you know, master artists coming from Italy to do workshops.
Glass workshops. Yeah,
there's really incredible things passing through there. So that's a great mention.
And JB, I just saw her recently, and she is always coming up with new, fascinating ideas.
Not surprised at that.
Yeah. And she's talking about doing some sort of a poetry reading kind of a thing, which like naturally doesn't add up to me necessarily, but she'll make it work. It'll be amazing, I'm sure. So yeah, there's always really interesting stuff happening there. And it's just like a quirky offbeat location. I like it.
Yeah. No, it's a great suggestion. I like that one. Is there anything that still reliably like delights you or maybe makes you laugh in the art world, whether that's a part of curating and the actual art itself, or, you know, the way that you get to work with people, collaborate, or work with the public and see responses? Is there anything that, you know, strikes you in that way?
Well, we did talk about how much I love curation is what I love and what I do. If I could spend all my time doing that would be great, but it's just a minuscule part of what I do. I think back to what we were talking about, how the art market feels kind of put people off, or, you know, it's kind of scary, but I just think of it as a very small world thing, just like every other, you know, if you're involved in sports or whatever, you just start knowing people because you start going to the same places, and it just becomes very accessible. And here in Palm Beach County, I think it's very, very accessible. But I had an experience once where I went to Basel in Switzerland, to the original Basel, like the mothership. And it was amazing. It was like a life-changing event. I loved it. It was wonderful. But I was waiting for my husband, standing near an escalator. He had gone off to do something, maybe get bottled water or something. And I'm standing there and I'm looking down the escalator and I see people that I know from New York coming up the escalator. And I'm like, oh my gosh, hi, what are you doing here? And we start chatting. And then as we're chatting, another couple we knew from London came around the corner and they also knew the other people. And we all started talking to each other. And the thing about it, it was serendipitous that we ran into each other, but we all love art and we all go to a lot of the same locations because that's where the art is. And you just start, it's like anything else. If you just start going over time, you meet people are friendly like anywhere else. It's just, you start asking questions, like you said. And to me, that's delightful because it is community and I really love engaging with other people about art. And I want to be with the people who want to talk about what I want to talk about. So,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's true. It's that excitement of like, oh gosh, these people get it. And it's a reaffirmation of like, oh, they're my people and this is my area. And I'm, excited to be able to be a part of that conversation. And yeah, who knows whether that's happens at OG Basel or, here in Palm Beach County. Everywhere. There's just, it's endless, which is, very exciting that you just get to be a part of this process, always learning, always experiencing, and it just keeps developing. It's great. I that's mostly all of my official questions. I could have a million more for sure. I guess I would love to end with maybe a piece of advice that you would want to give to, could be either directed towards artists or it could be directed towards somebody in, who wants to maybe get into curating or arts advocacy, if there's one of those directions that you'd like to go in.
Well, I think the art market is really tough right now. The market's very uncertain. But I think for everyone, be it an artist, a curator, a collector, I think being engaged, the short list, the show that you just referenced was, small works, generally very accessibly priced. And there was a lot of excitement around it because I think that people really do want to engage at whatever their part is in it, whether you're an artist, whether you're a collector, whether you're a curator, you want to keep doing what you're doing. You want to be engaged with your community. And there are ways to keep doing that. And so this show reminded me that it can be accessible. We sold a lot of artwork for people, which was wonderful. And the people who bought it are very excited to have it in their homes because it brings you joy. And so there are always ways, even when things are difficult, to, find joy and hope and wonder and just keep going. And I think there's opportunities for that. And we just have to keep moving in that direction. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And it's hopeful to hear that the interest is there. We just have to tap into what makes it accessible at this moment in time.
Yes.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. Like in the 80s when there was a crash, artists had to pivot and figure out different ways, maybe work with recycled materials. That was sort of one of the starting points of using recycled, upcycled, very reasonably priced materials, stuff like that. And it just started a new pathway for artists. So we have to look at it as an opportunity. Where's the opportunity? How do we make the most of it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's good advice. Thanks. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate your time and your story and sharing all these, extra details with us. I'm always excited, as you are, to learn more about the arts in this area and how we're all connected to it. So again, thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
And I will say thank you to our listeners and our viewers. We appreciate you tuning in. If you have any questions, comments, responses, we'd always love to hear from you. And thank you to our wonderful sponsor, the Cultural Council for Palm Beach County. I will see you next time on the ArtiGras Podcast.